Hello, I'm Morgan Moore. I'm a part of Artie Parker's class project known as Project for the People.
Okay.
And I got two other guys with me. They could introduce themselves.
Hey, my
Okay.
name is Karen Delvin, and I'm from Project for the People as well. We're
Okay.
grade 12 class.
Okay. Perfect.
I'm Kieran Stewart, and I'm also from the Project for the People in the RD Parker grade 12 class.
Okay.
Today we'll just be interviewing you about the homeless shelter.
Okay.
And you're the director of housing?
I'm the director of housing for CMHA. Kind of look over after 95 Cree Road to our Housing First program. And so we can talk a little bit about that. But I'll go over we'll focus on the shelter a little bit for now. If it comes up, I'll mention some stuff about the Housing First piece too. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay. So you want to go over the questions?
Yeah, I think we're gonna ask. We're all
Okay.
gonna ask a couple of questions each.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. I got a first question for you.
Yeah.
Do the seasons affect how many people you have in the shelter at once?
They usually not at once. We could take up to 24 people. That kind of answers another question, but in this with the seasons, we do notice an increase in the summer months of people in town, and I guess also accessing the shelter during the day, but we still have to kind of keep it at the 24 people mark because of fire code, right?
Yeah.
So, but winter's a little different. We do, if we have a little bit of overflow, we can take a few in the little porch there. If the temperature is minus 35 with or without the wind chill, they open the cold weather facility. So it's one of the skating rinks in town, right? So they open it up and they can take overflow if the shelter's full. So that's how we kind of address that piece in the winter. But yeah, in the summer there tends to be more people in town. A lot we have like there's kind of the shelter, like I guess what they call the chronic homelessness or episodic, and then you have your transient population, right? People who come to town. It's still kind of an episodic piece, but there tends to be a lot more in the summer when the seasons change.
That kind of answers my next question, but that's okay. I have a question. Is there a specific time on how long someone can stay, or like how many people? Do you have any people who have stayed for like a long period of time?
We actually have. There's been quite a few people that have stayed many years. The way we do the definition of chronic homelessness is 180 days or more per year. So we do have quite a few that have stayed for quite a while. They do have the SHIP program at the Y now, where we transferred some participants over there. So I believe there's 25 people over there right now. Like I said, when our shelter could take 24, right? So did I miss anything on that? Or is that pretty well covered up?
Pretty well.
That was pretty good. Like that's that answered my question.
Okay.
All right. So I got a question for you here.
Yeah.
It's what services does the shelter provide in, like, I would say, like hospitality, and like how would you guys help with the hygiene and that kind of stuff there?
So they do some case management with the participants, depending on what goals they want to set. We have a nutrition program for the participants that's offered, I believe, on a weekly basis. It's usually seasonal, so we get funding around this time, and then they run it till like around Christmas or something like that. So we do have a nutrition program. Our self-help person goes in there and they deliver. They do video presentations on different coping techniques and skills, and some videos on addiction recovery, and things like that. And yeah, and then I mean the staff do meet with participants, so they can do one-on-one supports with them. They don't really do the case management role as much. Although if a participant did have a goal they wanted to work on, they would address it with the coordinator, right? The shelter coordinator, for sure. So yeah, so that's done with the participants. It's tricky, but it's definitely doable, right? So it's just keep planting the seed, and we've had success stories, but you're not going to get 100% success stories, right, when they're dealing with addictions. But it is nice to see some of them, trying to do well, right? So.
All right, I got another question for you.
Yeah.
Due to COVID, has there been an increase or decrease of people who come into the shelter?
Well, I'll start it out like this. So when it first started, like around last March, right? They kind of opened the SHIP program so we could do a little bit more physical social distancing at the shelter. So when that happened, the numbers went down a little bit, like maybe 7-8 people in the shelter. And then a few of them weren't doing so well, I guess, at the Y. So we got a couple of them back. And then I guess what the increase piece would be, a lot of people were getting locked out of their, like a lot of the First Nation communities. So we did notice an increase when they got locked out because they couldn't go back until they either got a negative test or they had to self-quarantine for 14 days at a hotel in town before they could go back, right? So it's improved a little bit now, because some of the First Nations are taking them back as long as they have a positive, a negative test to bring back to the community or show the people in the community, right? So, but we did notice a little increase with that around December, January. It did increase around those months. Then it kind of went back to around the regular normal thing.
All right.
For people. So yeah, so there was an increase a little bit for sure. So.
Awesome. Do you have any tests or like regulations to make before you admit people to make sure there's no like outbreaks of illnesses and stuff before they go in?
We asked the COVID questions, you know, do you have a fever, cough, right? Fever, cough, shortness of breath, those kind of things. If they have that, if they have symptoms or anything, we'll kind of move them to they'll sleep on a certain side of the shelter, and then we'll recommend they go for the test the next day, a COVID test. Right, so that's kind of what we do. We couldn't, that's what public health recommended. So that's kind of what we do. We've had a few positives, not a lot, but overall we got pretty lucky. We didn't have any outbreaks like some of the other places. So it's been pretty well nipped in the butt, right? So yeah.
And then I just have another question on that. Yeah. Do you have any like masks or like PPE that they have to wear while they're inside the building, or is it just
participants have to wear masks while in the building as well as staff? Right, they have what do you call it, a plastic or a plexiglass shield put up, so when they're serving meals, the staff are behind the plexiglass. Employment Income Assistance has donated masks every 4 weeks, basically, so that we have enough PPE for all the participants, all the staff. Got funding as well for some PPE through the Red Cross, so that's helped out too. And that was to start with for the staff, because there was a shortage to start with, right? So, but yeah, there's definitely enough. I just picked up a box yesterday, I believe, of masks, some more masks for the shelter. So they've been pretty good with that, right? And they also provided, I think, for anybody that wasn't staying at the shelter who was on provincial or employment income assistance, which is provincial welfare, they actually provided 2 masks per person, 2 cloth masks, because their incomes are pretty low, right? I don't know if you've it's that they're not really high, right? So yeah, so so we've had that. They've donated the face masks, the half ones. We actually purchased the full face ones, but they donated some like the half face shields. And they even donated some gowns if we had positive cases or whatever, if we're working with participants. So yeah, so we definitely had enough, but it's a requirement to wear a mask. And overall, they might let their guard down a little bit when they go out of the shelter, but I see a lot of the homeless population wearing masks. I'm sure you guys have seen that too, right? They might take them down below the nose, but at least they're wearing them, right? So
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So my next question here is, how many people can be in the shelter at once? Like, I guess you guys could have more people before COVID.
Well, we could take 24. But
Okay.
I think we had tossed around between 16, 20 max. And we were going to try to have the mats. We were going to try to get dividers, but when we only had 6 or 8 people in there, it wasn't so bad. We could definitely do the 2 meters, right? 2 meters apart.
Yep.
But now it's got back up there where it's been pretty full. Like there's been a lot of days where we've had the maximum 24 participants as of late, right? So it's usually first come, first serve. So it's they have to register at 5 o'clock, and then they have to be in by 10 o'clock at night, right? So if it's full and somebody leaves at night, we don't recommend they do because of safety issues, but if they do, we can, and somebody else comes to the shelter, we'll try to fill that mat, right? So yeah, but we can take a 24 max people, right? So
All right, I got another question for you.
Yeah.
What are the main causes of homelessness in Thompson?
I think a lot of it's I think it's a lot of trauma, right? From the residential school piece, 60s scoop, the Indigenous day school piece, as well as substance use can be caused by a lot of that too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of substance use. Majority of the substance use is with alcohol, but there's the hand sanitizers, and there's alcohol in a lot of products uptown you might not think of, right? So that there's a little bit of drug use, but I see more substance use, like more for the alcohol piece side of it, right? So, but that can be caused by the trauma piece, right? That they've never shared their story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's tricky when it's if you catch them when they're like sober or relatively sober, you can try to work on setting some goals with them and see if they want to work towards bettering themselves, and right, maybe getting into treatment or whichever, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Then my next question is your budget big enough to handle all the homeless people you see on a yearly basis?
Right now it is, because we get a lot of donations, so that helps out, right? Especially for the grocery budget, and we've been getting stuff to purchase things too, so that helps out immensely, right? We just got some money to do repairs on the outside of the building, so that should be happening pretty soon. If we went to a bigger shelter, we'd probably need a little bit more, but there's funding dollars out there. Yeah, so right now I would say, yeah, there's enough for now, but with the donations that come in quite frequently, right? So people are very generous. It's amazing, right? So how many people donate? Yeah, I just had,
They want to help out the community kind of thing.
yeah, like they did a pizza party. You probably heard about that. They just
Yeah,
did
we
a
helped
pizza
out.
party. Yeah,
Yeah, our project put a little bit of money towards that, actually. It was good.
Yeah, so those kind of things. And I used to kind of do trainings for the shelter and the paw as well, and they were pretty generous over there too. So I think people want to help out, and I said, and yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we have some funding from it's called this food harvest. It's a food rescue thing. So businesses in town will call me if they have stuff, or call us if they have stuff to donate. So the other day I got a donation it's from A&W, where they donated a whole bunch, like tomatoes, lettuce, I think some burgers like they could cook up or whatever. So there's it's a thing across Canada because of COVID, right? So whenever a business in town has stuff to donate, instead of throwing it out, they can contact us, right? So as long as it's not expired and it's just still right, that yeah, you don't want it to be expired. So
All right. So the next question I got here is, do the employees or volunteers have to take in some sort of training or something?
they do. So we usually do mental health first aid.
Okay.
We do applied suicide intervention skills training, assist. We recommend they do nonviolent crisis intervention, but it's really hard to take that right now. I don't know if they have a trainer in town. Supposedly AFM does, and any other trainings that pertain to it, right? So I think they might be doing some trauma-informed care in a little bit, and I'll be taking, I think I took a piece on that before, but I'm gonna refresh on that. And what else? Let's see. I also, the training piece on the database system. We have a database system that tracks homelessness across in Thompson, as well as the province and across Canada. So I train on all that. I'm the trainer for that. I'm also a facilitator for mental health first aid and the assist piece as well. So it comes in handy, right? It's just how to like handle those situations. If a participant gets a little bit out of hand, or they're in crisis, or if they're having thoughts of suicide, those kind of things. So, but those kind of trainings they're expected to take, because I mean, substance use does increase the risk of attempting suicide, right, or having thoughts of suicide, or actually taking your life, right? So, yeah, so those trainings they're provided. There's also like sometimes there's other trainings we'll provide if it's in relation to help to the people they're helping, but those are the main ones we do.
Considering you guys see like a whole bunch of people with either mentally or physically illnesses and problems, right?
Yeah. And if we have other participants, we'll provide we get some people with intellectual disabilities. I mean, we try to liaison with some of the agencies that deal with that, and maybe either try to get them housed at some point, maybe in those programs if they want. It's all person centered, so if it's kind of their choice, right? It's all based on choice. So yeah.
What do you think that the shelter could do to reduce some of the homelessness in town, like in Thompson?
Well, what they could do, I think what we could do, I think just like educating people, providing those case management services, trying to basically what I tell a lot of the staff is trying to basically explaining the advantages and disadvantages of their substance use. Because at the end of the day, if they don't quit using or reduce their substance use, like the harm reduction piece, they're probably more than likely gonna, especially if it's alcohol, they could end, there's a good chance they will die from it, right? So, but to reduce it, we're working on strategies. Hopefully by next year, we should have a little process out where we're gonna be identifying the highest that need. So I think through these services, we've had some success stories. It's just that we seem to get younger people in every year. So I think reducing the homelessness piece, it's tricky because you can't take the alcohol piece off the market. And I know they say they won't serve people that are a known misuser, right, of substances, but I think just like meeting with them, trying to set those goals, trying to get them into treatment, trying to work on maybe the housing piece, the educational piece, or the employment piece with them, or even the socialization piece. So a lot of times when they're dealing with a mental health issue, they lose that socialization piece, right? All of a sudden their friends, like they might have had like say 20, 30 friends, and all of a sudden it's down to maybe one or two or none, right? So
Yeah.
on those pieces. So I think it's getting them to that point. I mean, a lot of them are friends. They become friends when they're at the shelter, right? So they go out and have fun. But I think what could be honestly what could be done to reduce a lot of it is having more to do, having
Yeah.
more things for the shelter population to do, more activities. Like we've talked about maybe getting when we had the pool to get maybe a pool pass for them for free. The walking track we can maybe a reduced gym pass. I think we talked to the city on that, but they were going to reduce the gym pass, but they don't get a lot of funds. So even if they could do that free for the homeless population at some point, or people are pretty generous that way. I'm sure we could arrange something, but just having more to do, maybe even getting them involved in some sporting events or they can volunteer sometimes even volunteering wouldn't be a bad thing, just to keep them occupied so they don't keep drinking, right? I had talked to an elder, and he had said that a land-based treatment center wouldn't be a bad thing because the treatment center they have up here is only 28 days, right? And that works for some people, but not everyone, right? So maybe a longer term treatment center or a place they could go after they complete AFM, maybe for like we have a facility, we actually take people that are dealing with mental health and addictions after they come out of treatment. So, but maybe a longer treatment program wouldn't be a bad thing. Like they have one in Nelson House that's 2 months, I believe, but I think there's a female intake and a male intake. So you can't get in right away, right? So maybe a longer term treatment program could help more, right? It can prevent them. It's what's really keeps them in that cycle is the urge to use. A lot of them say it's really hard to get rid of that urge, right? But we always tell them you really have to put your mind to it. Because I had asked a friend of mine who was dealing with that, and he said, I really just had to really put my mind to it and say, I'm going to do this and then make steps to, work towards my recovery. Right. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Is in Thompson, is there more than one location? Like, do you have a couple locations in the city?
We have, well, there's only the one shelter right now, but we do have a housing first program. What it does is it basically houses people that use the emergency services the most in Thompson. So a lot of them, they developed the top 20 list to start with. It actually ended up being 28 people. But we get them into this facility and we're doing intense case management with them. So we're working on goal setting. It's person-centered, so it's their choice, but we keep just, we do home visits on a weekly basis with them, trying to get them to set goals. Some do have goals. Some are older. So even something simple as like maybe, looking at getting housing as a start or something. Mind you, it's really hard to get housing in Thompson, but or working on the sobriety or working on their hygiene. We've had to deal with some things like, or teaching them life skills, the life skills piece for sure. All right. So that's kind of what with the housing first piece, we do that. We try to get them housed. We're working on some, I guess we're looking at trying to get some more affordable housing, right? It's really hard to afford an apartment in Thompson. As you probably know, the rents are really high. And so for like a lot of the homeless population to afford a place that's just been renovated is probably not doable at this time, but we're definitely looking at the affordable housing opportunities, right? So And so that could reduce it if we can get some house, like affordable housing. That could definitely do that piece too, right? With that. But yeah, so the housing first piece is it's not a shelter at 95 Cree Road. It's some people view it as transitional. It's supposed to be looked upon through the housing first piece as permanent housing. But at some point, if one of their goals is to move into housing, then we help them with that piece.
Yeah.
We'll do the applications. Yeah.
Through the whole situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we teach them, we try to, like, usually do a housing application with them, and then like get them to do, like, because we want to empower them to learn how to do this, because if they ever have to do it on their own, there's not somebody there, you know, you want them to be able to navigate the system, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the gist of that.
All right.
Mhm.
And is there any special accessibility devices? Like say if someone has a wheelchair or so, like do you guys got like stuff where they could sit on?
We're looking, usually we have the lower floor, right? So we have, we don't really have a ramp yet. We've talked about it. So that's not that it hasn't been talked about. We do get a couple of people in wheelchairs. It's just, even at 95, we're looking at just getting a ramp for just a doorway, because there's a little, not so bad getting out, but getting back in, there's always somebody to help. But we are looking at trying to get like kind of a ramp to make it a little bit easier at some point, right? So how they do, I think somebody just helps them up. It's not a little, at the shelter, it's not a really big ramp, like a really big deck, so they could lift them up, but it would definitely come in handy. So just getting a ramp built up so they could get onto there wouldn't be a bad thing. So we've discussed that. That's still in the works. So.
All right. Well, thank you for coming out to our interview, Mr. Darren.
Yeah. No, and if you guys need numbers, I have numbers. We keep track of a lot of the stats, right? So it is quite high. The number of homeless people, I think it was around 263 last year, from April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021. So that's like 263 different accessed the shelter in that year. So it's you might think it's like the same 25, but it is a lot of people, right? So yeah, and they have a shelter list for each night and how many people are staying, but it's been pretty high every year. It has, like, it's just, we're trying to reduce, then you get more people coming out. Last year we were saying there was a lot of younger people coming out, but they tend to follow their peers, right? If they know people from the community, everybody in the community is, a lot of times they know each other, so they probably hear that this person's out here and they want to come and visit, and then they get into that cycle, right? So it's tricky. So but yeah, but to reduce it for sure, like just maybe those things, maybe getting a longer term treatment or a land-based treatment center, those kind of things wouldn't be a bad thing, right? Teaching some people the cultural piece, providing they're into that spirituality part of it. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming out.
So I hope I answered everything.
Yes, you did. You did a great job. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Special thanks to Paul Anderson as well for helping us record the interview. This has been Project for the People, and thank you for watching, guys.
You have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again sometime.
You as well. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.